All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Fastlane Founders. I'm Greg Q, and I'm here today with Brent Williams of Haptech Holdings, and we're super excited to get to know him and see what he's been doing and share with the world all the cool stuff that his company does. So, welcome, Brent.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, your journey, what got you to the place of being an entrepreneur?
I've kind of dabbled in the startup world for many years. I had a consulting firm that helped startups do kind of financial and operational uh, uh, side of the business for about 10 years, and I went back to corporate America for a little while, and then had the opportunity to be involved in a startup, which is now the technology that we own, Haptech owns, and got an opportunity to be involved there on an operational level, and even kind of overseeing the marketing team there for a short bit. And the technology was just very cool, and there was a lot that could be done with it. It was our story is really we own 16 patents of IP that we purchased based on distressed debt from the original people that invented the technology. And that was originally invented for entertainment purposes to enhance, music and enhance, give that third or in sensory level in gaming, or the secondary sensory level while at a live concert or live entertainment. We saw the opportunity. My business partner and I saw the opportunity to really leverage that in the health and wellness sector as well. So we ended up discovering that we had the opportunity to purchase this IP for literally pennies on the dollar, from some distressed debt that the previous owners had, and we basically bid on it and won it, and then we formed a team and developed it into the kind of second generation, and focused on health and wellness. So that's kind of the origin story. There's a lot more to it, but and in terms of myself, I love learning new things. I get bored very easily, so that's where the startup world and being an entrepreneur is very, very exciting. Back to the distressed debt, I knew nothing about what I was doing. And I will say it's amazing what you can do when you have no choice but to figure it out. But it's been a learning process, and it's been fun.
Yeah, that's super awesome. And so, tell us a little bit about your product and your company and what you're solving and how you're doing it.
Yeah, so the product itself is audio-based haptic feedback. So basically, we take any audio that you're hearing or listening to, and we capture that and put it in the form of vibration. We started in footwear devices because there's more nerve endings on the bottom of your feet than anywhere else in your body, and also it's coming from the ground up and it kind of flows up through your body, so it really hits your nervous system. What you hear is exactly what you feel. So it's very, very precise, where you can hear the difference of vocals or piano or bass, or if it's just white noise, you'll kind of feel that. It's any audio output. So we capture the audio, by way of a couple of our products are by way of Bluetooth, and a couple of them are hardlined in, depending on the purpose. But how we leverage that is, again, back to how it was originally birthed or thought of. There was a drummer that was in his studio one day, and it was his idea. He thought this whole thing up, and he's basically like, literally, I want to feel like I'm at a live concert. He's feeling the reverberation off the floor in the studio, and he's like, I want to feel like I'm at a live concert all the time, like when I'm walking through the streets of Manhattan. So he kind of thought all this up and invented it, and it really was marketed toward enhancing music, adding that secondary sensor, and then also marketing it toward gamers. So then you're not just hearing and seeing, now you're feeling. So there's a science behind that too. You add that third sensory, and it actually increases reaction time. So that was the original kind of Gen 1 marketing of the product, and the thought process of where the application could be. Now, this is several years ago. We bought the IP back in 2022, and we really got it transferred over and started operating in early 2023, where we took that product, the original one product that the previous folks had, and we expanded into 4 products. And we took it, and we have products that were originally more geared toward entertainment, but then we see a huge opportunity, and we're seeing it already. And our first product that's going to be shipping this month is actually geared toward the health and wellness space. So we've seen huge legs in the opportunity to use this product coupled with music therapy, and then adding that vibration, again, that secondary sensor that really just amplifies the experience and enhances it so much that we've seen tremendous opportunity in treating PTSD, addiction, and any trauma-based, mental trauma-based care. And additionally, and more recently, we've seen a huge potential, which we're actually doing some more studies. We've done some observations, and we've seen incredible results in helping to treat some of the symptoms in Parkinson's disease. So again, coupled with music therapy and the vibration with Parkinson's folks, it seems to open the gate, increase balance. And these are all things that we need to get additional studies for. But that's how that's what we're looking to solve, is how can we leverage this tech in more like changing how we view treatments of certain things. Next up is Alzheimer's. So there's a lot that we can do with this, some of which I'm sure we haven't even thought of. But that's kind of the problem we're looking to solve, or what we're trying to help people with. And think outside the box a little bit of, again, how it was developed, what it was meant for, and then, move on to other things and applications.
Yeah, that's super rad. And I kind of want to dig a little bit more into the one area there that really interests me, which is kind of the Alzheimer's trauma space. Because I took care of my mom who had dementia for 4 years, and I had a lot of experience, working in that kind of scenario. What is it about your product and the people that you're helping that really makes this an awesome fit?
I mean, if you can improve someone's lifestyle in any way, I think that's just an awesome thing to do. And I know I'll get back to Alzheimer's in a second, because I know that was more the question. But like with Parkinson's, because I've witnessed some of these observations with some of Parkinson's patients. And when I say observations, it's like, onesie, twosie. We started off, testing the product out on a few people, and the change was instantaneous. There was one gentleman who, his wife of 40 years was with us, and his physical trainer was with us, who has trained him for years, 3 or 4 days a week. And he put on our first gen shoes, and he's listening to music, and he's, has the shoes on, they're vibrating, and he instantly changed where he was walking. His balance instantly improved. He had one foot in front of the other, like wow. Easily done. He's then standing on one foot and extending his leg up in the air. And I mentioned the wife of 40 years and the trainer, because they know him best, and they know his motor skills and his balance and his abilities. And both of them were just immediately like, oh my God, you couldn't do this 5 minutes ago or yesterday or a week ago. And just that transformation was just instantaneous. So like to see that and hear that feedback is just very, it's very motivational. It's very inspiring. So that's kind of, where I kind of love what we do. Back to Alzheimer's, we have yet to kick off a study on that. So I can't speak enough to it, other than, with what we know with music therapy and just music in general, and what it does to spark memories. If you take the music, the working theory is if you take the music, that we already know sparks memories and enhances, recall and cognitive ability, adding that amplifier, if you will, with the vibration, and adding the stimulation in your nervous system with it. And also there's some science behind it that we actually have studied and covered, of, cortisol levels and reducing oxytocin and this and that, because of, your brain definitely reacts to this stimulation. The working theory is that it would help recall, or help possibly trigger memories, and or improve cognitive ability on the Alzheimer's dementia folks. And this is also a passion project for me too, because my mother's an early onset. So this is something we definitely are going to be looking into. We started with Parkinson's because we had access to some Parkinson's folks, and then the Alzheimer's thing is just something that we're like, okay, this makes sense to see if we can apply the technology to that. And that's the fun part, is discovering new methods and new applications every day.
Yeah, that that's so amazing, and I can definitely relate firsthand to music. My mom was really big, into a lot of classic rock and specifically Elton John,
Oh yeah.
and I was able to take her to his second to last concert ever,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and it was so rad. I mean, we were on the wheelchair level, so we're on the ground floor, like maybe 20, 30 yards back, raised up, and like just seeing how she reacted to that, right?
That's great. Yeah.
And seeing how she was different for a couple days, right?
Hmm.
And if you guys are able to, you know, pull all this tech together and be able to do that on a consistent basis, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
We're
Well,
not
well,
talking, yeah,
that's the idea is, we talk about like PTSD and the mental trauma and even the recovery folks, and we partner with a lot of rehab centers as well. So it helps with addiction. And the idea is that, we have products that are in therapy use and with clinicians in certain settings. And then everyone has a take home product, which is insoles that they can use to self-regulate and continue on. So they don't have to rely on just the sessions when they're with their clinician or their doctor or their psychologist or therapist. They have a method to do it at home where it's consistent as they see fit. So that's kind of again where we're going with it. And again, there's more to come on this, but there's studies that have been done and that we have information to where there's it reduces stress level, it reduces anxiety, which is why it works with rehab and addiction and this and that. And there's heart rate variabilities that come into play. So there's a lot of science behind it as well, and it sounds interesting because it's such a non-invasive form to help. Um, it's a coping mechanism, one, but in certain settings, but it's also it helps regulate. People self-regulate. Um, and gives people an opportunity that's a non-invasive way to help treat some of the symptoms of some of these conditions, like cognitive ability with Alzheimer's, or some of the mobility effects of Parkinson's patients. So, and I like the way that it's non-invasive. It's not, you're not having to take medication. You're not having to, it's a very simple way. And there's so much more information coming out about music and vibration and how it changes your body system and kind of rewires your nervous system a little bit. So
yeah, super rad. So let's pull out the crystal ball a little bit, and let's move ahead 10 years, right? Let's say that the science does come together, right? Your
Mhm.
product does become a big product, and lots of people are using it. What do you think? What do you hope the world for these people is like 10 years from now when you have this product going?
Well, I would hope that it's just improving the day-to-day lives of folks that are affected by some of this. And 10 years from now, who knows where we'll be with, other technologies and other, opportunities. Even I would say 5, 6 years ago, people were using the technology that we have, and they were literally there's the gaming industry has applied this technology for the last several years. 5, 6 years ago, it wasn't as honed in. It wasn't as good as it is. The best part about our product is that we own the footwear space. We own the audio based feedback for haptics. So our patents are extremely strong. So, 10 years from now, there's going to be other folks that are using this technology. I would hope it would be applied in other areas, but we're learning a lot more now than we did even know, again, 5 years ago. Um, there's articles now. There was a Forbes article that came out like last year, and it was talking about how, haptics is no longer just for gaming, because that's all people thought about, just a few years ago. Is it? Oh, it's an entertainment. It adds that third sensory for gamers, and it adds a advantage for gamers because of the increased reaction time. VR, it adds increased proprioception, which is spatial body awareness. So people that get motion sickness in real life events, a lot of times when they go on, when they're using VR, they get that motion sickness still because your brain plays tricks on you when you're in a headset. So that added feeling, that tactile hearing, if you will, is it adds that proprioception where it gives increased body, it gives a grounding. So it helps in a lot more ways than we thought it did, years ago. So 10 years from now, I'm not sure where we'll be, but I would hope that, our product would be out there and we'd be leading the market in terms of leveraging this in the ways that I've already discussed. But again, I think there's applications that we haven't even thought about yet. And if we can just continue expanding in that wellness space and improving the day-to-day lives of folks, like the Alzheimer's or like the Parkinson's folks and like folks that have dementia, that's kind of the goal. That would be, I think that would be awesome.
100%. So let's dig into your team a little bit, and
Yep.
I want to kind of learn about you and your co-founders and kind of how you met and what's kind of pulled you guys together. I know we talked a little bit about the start, but it's a little more
Yeah.
targeted.
So my co-founder, my business partner, is a guy named Dr. Steven Danziger. He's actually also a former professional punk rock drummer back in the day. And he then turned psychologist and therapist for the last several decades. He was an advisor at the company that originally invented, or the group that originally invented this tech and thought it up. I was also involved in it. So I met him through that experience of working with the previous, founders or inventors of the tech. And so him and I had met. We worked, a little bit together, but not too closely, but we knew each other well enough. And I had kind of severed ties with that group, and as did he. But we kind of kept in touch, and he has another business that he trains EMDR professionals. Is one of the things that he does. So during his time working with the previous group of the company that we ended up buying out, essentially, he was using the first generation product and really kind of just giving some feedback, from his music background, but also from his psychological background, and he was kind of like, oh my God, he's like, I could use this in my practice. I could use this to help treat EMDR, because EMDR, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's basically it provides therapy and uses bilateral stimulation. So it's literally kind of like and it was founded by a woman in the 80s, and I should know her name, and I can't think of it off my top of my head right now, but she was suffering from certain traumas, and she noticed that if you move your eyes back and forth, it actually does help kind of that reprocessing of the trauma and kind of drains it a bit. So she invented what's literally called EMDR. And that's what Steve specializes in. He's considered to be a kind of a thought leader in that market, in that industry. And he realized that with the vibration and with we could you could have sound that goes back and forth, left ear, right ear, left ear, right ear, and you could also, if that was happening with the sound, given our technology, you would feel left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. So that would equal the bilateral stimulation. So there's, again, back to music therapy coupled with the kind of amplification of what you're going through, adding the vibration to it and adding that secondary sensory, it helps, with the treatment. So that's where the whole health and wellness kind of birthed from. So he had this idea. The previous folks, they were focused on entertainment. And so we, after severing ties with the previous folks, both of us kind of went our separate ways. But I was also, kept in touch with him, and I was helping him with his other business, that is his training business for EMDR therapy, and just more on a strategy level, financial, operational, just kind of an advisor for the company. And I had also kept tabs on what was going on with the original inventors, and realized that there was some distressed debt that was all the IP was attached to, and there was another VC firm that was going to bid on it, and basically sell off the IP for spare parts. And so in talking with Steve, I was like, why don't we throw our hat in the ring? I know I kind of have a good idea what the VCs are going to bid. We raise a little bit of pre-seed money, throw some of our own money in there, and see if we can't get the bid and win the IP. And we take this IP and we really apply it to what he had thought of initially of leveraging it in the wellness space, specifically at the time EMDR only. And we still saw the incredible opportunity with entertainment. I mean, that's still a focus of ours, but the exciting part for us is growing the health and wellness space and really kind of making an impact. And there was a business in itself just on entertainment alone. So we're like, oh, what do we have to lose? So that's what we ended up doing. And I worked with the bank, and I got a lot of really great advice from a really great legal team and also really great advisors. And we worked through the process and ended up getting the IP. And so that's kind of like how him and I started our journey together, launching this company together. And it was literally like we just formed a company so we could bid on the IP, so we had a place to dump it into if we in fact won it. So it was an interesting time, and it was fun. And like I said, I learned so much throughout this process. Then Steve and I, we formed him and I were a very strong team, very, very different skill sets. He's the health and wellness, PhD guy. I'm definitely the finance operations strategy guy. So that I took over the role of CEO, and he oversees the wellness space. And we've then since hired a team of advisors that also help us with the studies, I've got the best advisors I think ever. They're helping me raise money. They're helping me, make day-to-day kind of decisions, giving me insights. And then also again, back to helping us, I should say, work through formulating different studies, getting different relationships in place. Like back to Parkinson's, we've got 5 different institutions that are ready, willing, and able and waiting for us to provide the product so that they can start studies with us. We've got a couple of different Alzheimer's facilities waiting for us to complete the insoles so we can complete those studies. We're working with Wounded Warriors Foundation, or we will be very soon. We've got a good relationship with them through one of my advisors. So those are the kinds of things that as we built the team, our advisors have been absolutely critical. And then some of the best things that we've got is our team, our internal team outside of our advisors. We were able to get the former head of engineering from the previous group of folks that invented the product. I was able to bring him over. Him and I worked together for a while and had a great relationship, and also kept in touch throughout the period that we weren't really working together. And so I was able to bring him in, and he's on our team now. And so he knows the technology. He knows, he helped develop the original first generation. So, first generation took about 6 years to get there. In 9 months, we had Gen 2. So we were able to accelerate that because of some of the team members that we brought in. Our mechanical engineer and head of product development, he's also one of the guys from the original group. And then we brought in some new folks. So we had a lot of people that were very familiar, some of the folks that worked on the original. And then we had some new people come in that brought a fresh perspective. And then even our UX designer had worked on the original product. So he was very familiar with it. So we were able to fast track a lot of things, but also with some of our newer team members bring in some, again, fresh perspective. So it's been really interesting, but I can't speak enough about our team and how quickly they move and how quickly we got to where we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I kind of want to dig into what we talk about a lot here on the Fastlane Founders Pod is, how do we communicate effectively and efficiently? How do we go from idea to execution quickly? And how do we kind of deal with all these different personalities that are on our team? So what's your experience from idea to execution to products, and how do you guys go about that in your company?
First of all, I have to laugh at the personalities because, I got engineering folks, and I've got me, and I've got, more marketing and creative, and then, the money side of it. So it is a lot of personalities, but it's fun. The idea to, actual product to me was, that's kind of what I like, because I like working with our engineering team because I kind of can, in engineering, it's also, I'm including, our head of product development and he's kind of mechanical engineer / product development. And and then I've got, our head of engineering whose title is chief architect. So between the two of them, I feel like I can, explain kind of what we're thinking of doing. And they're good at kind of taking it and running with it because they know the technology so well, that they know the capabilities and they know what it can do. And I've learned a lot about, I don't come from the tech world initially. I mean, I've worked in wearable tech for almost 10 years now, but that was not my background for the first, 15, 16 years of my career. I came from the apparel fashion world, making, making garments and, selling apparel. So, and I worked more in finance and operations and kind of business intelligence, and I've always done consumer goods. So it's been an interesting ride for me to learn about the tech. So working with the two folks that I'm in, our mechanical and our chief architect, they've taught me a lot about tech, and I definitely now integrally understand, how the tech works and how it operates. But I rely on them to kind of help guide me through, what can we do and what can't we do. I'll give you an example. We were going up, and I always joke, talk about an elevator pitch. We were going up the elevator in New York to this social media firm, and they represent, I would say, a good chunk, if not most, of marketing for social media marketing for most of the Broadway plays. So knowing that that's what they did, and we're in that kind of enhancing live entertainment space, and I've got a lot of investors, and one of my best and biggest advisors, is actually both of them, two folks. They produce Broadway, on and off Broadway plays. They invest into them. They are heavily involved in their Tony Award winners, and they're heavily involved in that world. So we had the idea of okay, live entertainment. Let's see what we can do. Is there a play to get our insoles into the audience? And I'm like, well, that doesn't really work. Because people don't want to take their shoes off, put an insole in, and then go into the theater. It just logistically didn't work. So, at the time we only had 3 products, and we're going up the elevator to go to this meeting. And I'm like, well, what if we just took the insoles and made it into a floor mat, and basically expanded the insole and just put heavier hardware in there, using hardware that we have for our third product already. And, we're literally talking in the elevator. I'm talking with our CFO and talking with my advisor, and who's also an investor, about this as we go up the elevator. And we get into the room, and I just start pitching that to 12 people in around the table. And I'm like, yeah, we can do this. And I hadn't talked to engineering yet at all. I'm just in my head, I'm like, I think this will work. I don't understand why it can't work. So then I took that idea and I went back to our engineering team, and I'm like, please don't kill me, but this is what I pitched. And I was like, please tell me we can do it. So then we just we formulated of how does this look together? What's the hardware look like? And then that turned into, now we're in development of making that product. And we're making floor mats to put into Broadway theaters. And we're doing some pilot programs we have 3 theaters that are open to doing a pilot with us. And we have another guy who provides all the technology for Broadway. Is a very large company. He's going to build a dummy stage for us and bring in all the theater owners, the producers, directors, and have them test it out and kind of do a sniff test on it. So that's kind of it was an idea. I talked to my engineering team. We're like, okay, we developed this out. Took a little bit of time, not too long, to develop that out, and now all of a sudden we got a 4th product with a 4th application, or a whole new application and a whole new marketplace. Of getting live theaters to use our product and put it into the flooring of the theater, so the audience members are now going to kind of feel what's going on stage and enhancing that entire experience.
Yeah, that's so
cool. Long-winded answer, but that to me is the fun part. That is really fun for me.
Oh yeah,
and my engineering team probably hates me for that. But I'm like, well, I just pitched it to 12 people and they loved the idea.
Yeah, they're always worried about the oddest things, but okay. So where are you guys at in your company? Are you post revenue? Are you raising capital? Are you looking for new clients? How does all that?
Yeah, we are raising capital. We're going into our Series A. We like I said, we raised some pre-seed money just to buy the IP. Then we went through our seed round, and fulfilled that. And now we're going off our Series A for bigger money, literally to scale production. So our problem is not sales, it's not demand. Our problem is basically supply. So we've got to raise some money for literally to just scale up production. We've definitely got the demand. So the beauty of our part of our model is that, again, we've got, like I said, theaters on the Broadway side, or the theater side, I should say, on and off Broadway. We've got folks lined up to do some pilot programs with us. We've got to make those products to get them in there. On the health and wellness side, we've already got pre-orders for what we call the pedestals, which is used for in therapy or in clinic use. We've got pre-orders that we're building. We're building the first delivery now, which is what's going to be shipping. So we can get by on making minimal amounts and getting it out there. But we've also got, because of some of the relationships that Steve has in the nature of his other business of training other clinicians and therapists, and also a couple of our other advisors and investors are also live in that world. We've got demand, and we don't have any real marketing or business development cost because they're all relationships that we have in place. We've got two investors own multiple locations of rehab centers. So the idea with our business model is that we sell the one product, which is the pedestals for in clinical use, and then every patient of theirs gets the take-home product of insoles. So for every therapist, say, that buys a pedestal, we've got an average of like 25 people that will be getting insoles. And in the rehab center, rehab centers work typically, generally speaking, off of like 30, 60, or 90-day programs. So every 30, 60, or 90 days, you get a new cohort of patients or a new group of patients coming in and out and cycling through. So that's like almost an annuity for us, where if you're in a 30, say a 50-bed rehab facility with 50 patients cycling through every 30 days, that's 50 new insoles that we automatically sell every 30 days. So it kind of regenerates, and we've got a lot of connections and relationships with a lot of rehab centers. We've got connections with hundreds and hundreds of therapists and clinicians and psychologists. So the business development cost is nil. So to get going, that's where we're launching with the wellness side. To get going, it's really scaling production. So that's where we're trying to raise some money. And then on the Parkinson's side, every facility that we do a study with, that's a built-in customer base. There's one that's like 150, has 150 patients. There's another one that has 200 something patients. So that's kind of a built-in, as we do these studies, it's just a built-in revenue stream for us. So
Nice. So for all the VCs that end up listening to this, what are you guys raising, and how has that gone for you guys so far?
Well, we just started literally within like the last week or so, trying to going out for the Series A. I will say we've raised nearly $3 million so far. Our seed was about $2.2 million. We've gotten a little bit in bridge money and convertibles come in. So we've raised roughly $3 million so far, and that's served us very well to basically get us to revenue positive starting in these upcoming weeks here. And for the Series A, what we do know is that to scale in over the course of the next few years, we need up to 10 million. So for now, if that's going to be a series like A1 and an A2, or an A and a B, we're talking not in the world of VC money, 10 million is Probably a good Series A, which is why I say A1 or A1 and A2. But right now, if I could raise, I'd say 2 to 4 million, this year, and then go back out for the rest of the 10, by early next year. That would give us a really great opportunity to really scale where our pro forma or our forecast is really, projecting. And I think our forecast is actually, everyone always, kind of, it's like, you can put anything on paper. I mean, I came from finance world, and early on in my career, FP&A, and I know you can make anything look like how you want it, but I think our forecast actually is fairly accurate, and it's probably a little conservative. Given the model that we have that I just explained with working with rehab centers and working with other institutions and therapists on the wellness side, and then also getting into the Parkinson's side, and then hopefully the Alzheimer's, will follow very soon after that. Part of the money too that we're raising is also, there's studies that we can do for free. And we have folks that are willing to help us out and do that, but there's also studies that we're going to have to pay for, to legitimize some of what I'm talking about. So some of the money will be used for the research on the studies, and getting proof of concept or proof of efficacy. And then we are a tech company, hardware and software, so there's always going to be some R&D costs. But that's where we're at with the money raise, and I really am hoping to close that sooner than later, just to keep the momentum and finish some of the development on the floor mat, and then also just scale up the pedestals even more, so we can keep fulfilling the orders that we've already got, and then to keep coming in, and then start producing the insoles as the follow-on product for our pedestals.
Awesome. Well, I I come across a lot of founders and a lot of business models, and yours is both robust and meaningful, which I find a lot of robust business models and visions. I find less meaningful ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds, that one of the biggest things that we walk a fine line is that we have a lot of opportunity. We could take this product and this technology. So one thing I always stress is that we're very focused on the launch. Again, it's the people that we have relationships, the rehab centers, the therapists, the clinicians, and it's really for that mental trauma EMDR therapy is the initial kind of like push, and then we're using those funds and those revenues to then expand and again proof of efficacy for Parkinson's a little bit more beyond just observations. We have to do proper studies, so that's where we have like a very focused approach, and then we can then kind of go from there. And then on the entertainment side, the focused approach is really Broadway. We'll of course market to gamers, but that's where the marketing dollars come in. So that's going to be kind of a secondary focus for us, just because we're all excited about the health and wellness, and I honestly think that's going to be the bigger part of the business. I don't know that. I'm speculating, of course, but when you say robust, it is, and again, like I said before, not to be repetitive, but I think there's opportunities to leverage this tech in areas we haven't even thought of. But like right now, let's focus on what we know to be true, the relationships that we do have that we can get product out to, for folks that are actually literally waiting for us to just produce it and ship it out to them, and use that revenue to then expand further and continue on a very focused path. So that's where the exciting part is. Again, is it's not just one application, and it doesn't have to be, but also, again, I do use the word focused a lot because it is important to kind of not get too off track. I've seen too many founders do that, where it's like back and forth, and all over the place. So I've worked in that environment too much I know better at this point, I think, hopefully.
Definitely. So as we wrap up, as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, you've made it farther than the vast majority of younger and less experienced entrepreneurs out there. What kind of advice do you have for them, as they're building, as they're going on their journey, and from your experience?
Honestly, I'm going to go back to surrounding myself with just such great folks and people. again, great advisors, great team. Uh, Definitely would not have been able to do any of this without them. And then also just, to have faith in yourself. Um, there was there's days where I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? And then the next day is like, oh, this is amazing. It's like there's ups and downs. You just kind of fight through it. I think a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs will probably agree with me on that, or most people maybe, I don't know, but yeah, just kind of to have a little faith in yourself, and when you think you don't know what you're doing, like I said early on, it's amazing what you can do when you have no choice but to figure it out and leverage the folks around you, and just surround yourself with just good people, and people that really want to see you succeed, and weed out the ones that you don't. So
Definitely. Well, it's been an awesome episode, Brent. Thank you a ton for coming on, and
well,
you
thanks for
know,
having me.
I know you got a ton of great content on here. You explain, your story and your business, and what you're doing, and where you're going, and we're all really excited to see where it goes. And so, yeah, thanks for coming on. This is the end of this episode of the Fastlane Founders Pod. We come back multiple times a week and talk to super awesome people, and look forward to seeing you guys all in future episodes.
Thank you for having me.